Okay, so imagine this, right? What if there was a way you could, like, snap your fingers and solve a huge problem? I mean, like, a win-win for everyone. A
I mean,
country that desperately needs nurses gets the help it needs, and on the other side, skilled professionals get amazing opportunities abroad.
yeah. Sounds pretty good.
Right. It sounds fantastic. Well, that's exactly what Germany's trying to do.
Really?
Yeah, they're working on a plan to recruit 5,000 nurses from East Africa. But, and there's always a but, isn't there? There's a bit of a snag.
What's that?
Um, you guessed it, it's the language barrier.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and learning German, well, let's just say it's not exactly known for being easy. So today we're going to deep dive into this whole thing. Why is this program so important? What's causing this bottleneck? And what does it tell us about, I guess, like global talent flows in general?
Yeah, I think it's a really fascinating case study, especially if you kind of think about the bigger picture.
Yeah, yeah.
Many developed countries are facing a similar problem, right?
Yeah.
Aging populations, not enough healthcare workers to keep up with the growing demand. It's a pretty widespread issue.
You're absolutely right. I bet a lot of our listeners have experienced this firsthand, whether it's long wait times or just, seeing how overstretched hospitals are. It's a big deal. So what is Germany doing about it?
Well, it seems like they've partnered with Kenya on this really innovative program,
Yeah,
a collaboration between Koblenz University of Applied Sciences in Germany and Mount Kenya University.
that's right.
And their goal is to, well, train and recruit Kenyan nurses. And they've actually already started a pilot program back in 2023, 2024.
That's right. Those pilot programs are so important, aren't they? I mean, it gives them a chance to, like, test the waters a bit, figure out what works and what doesn't before they go all in.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a trial run.
Yeah, totally. And this brings us to, I don't know, should we call it the elephant in the room? The language barrier.
Right.
And we're not talking about like ordering a beer in German here. We're talking about complex medical terminology, communicating effectively with patients, with colleagues, basically, functioning smoothly in a completely German-speaking work environment. And to do that, the program requires nurses to reach a B2 level of proficiency.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty advanced.
it is. To give you an idea, imagine having to explain a complicated medical procedure to a German-speaking patient,
Yeah.
or navigating the intricacies of the German healthcare system.
Right.
That's the level of fluency we're talking about.
Oh, I see. So it's not just like basic conversational German.
No, not at all.
It's really specialized.
Right.
And I imagine that's where things start to get tricky.
It does, yeah.
I mean, I read that. So it's like they've got the demand, they've got the program, but not enough applicants who meet that language requirement.
Yeah, it's almost like, having this bridge built, but not enough people who can actually cross it.
Hmm. That's a good analogy.
Right. And the numbers really highlight this. Their initial goal, remember, was to recruit 60 nurses during the pilot phase.
Yeah.
But only 13 actually ended up going to Germany.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a pretty big difference. Makes you wonder, if maybe the language barrier is a bigger hurdle than they initially thought.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to want to learn a language, but it's another to actually achieve that level of fluency.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual effort either, right?
Right.
There's a real lack of training and testing facilities in Kenya, which just adds another layer of complexity to the whole thing.
It's not just about one person learning a language.
Yeah.
It's about having a whole system in place to support that learning.
Exactly, exactly. And that really highlights the importance of infrastructure when it comes to international collaborations like this.
Absolutely.
You can have the best idea in the world, but if you don't have the right systems in place to support it, well, it's going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah, for sure.
But okay, before we get too bogged down in the challenges here, let's talk about those 13 nurses who did make it to Germany. They're doing incredibly well. I read that hospitals are really happy with their performance. They're integrating well into German society. It's proof that, when things fall into place, this program has the potential to be like really successful.
It's great to hear those success stories. It
Yeah.
really speaks to the dedication and resilience of these nurses,
Yeah.
to overcome that language barrier. And now they're making such valuable contributions to the German healthcare system. It's pretty amazing.
And the program itself is evolving too. It's moved past that pilot phase and is now a regular program. They're expanding, including senior care homes now, and even adding more medical professions like surgical assistants and medical technologists. It's clear they see the potential here and are committed to like really expanding its reach.
Yeah, expanding the scope like that,
Yeah.
it widens the impact, right?
Yeah.
Creates opportunities for a wider range of healthcare professionals. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a win-win for both Germany and the African countries involved.
Absolutely. And here's another incentive they're adding. Employers are now going to cover pre-departure training costs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a game changer. By easing that financial burden, they're making this opportunity much more accessible, opening doors for a much broader pool of talent.
Yeah, that financial support can make a world of difference. It really shows a commitment to removing those barriers and making this a real option for people.
Totally, totally. So, okay, let's say you're interested, you're listening to this and thinking, hey, I want to apply. What do you need? First, you need a Kenyan Certificate of Secondary Education, KCSE, with at least a C grade. But, and here's the interesting part, if you have that B2 German proficiency, they might consider you even if your KCSE grades are a bit lower.
Ah.
Again, that emphasis on language skills.
That flexibility is a good sign, I think. It shows they recognize that maybe language proficiency is even more important than some other qualifications in this specific program.
Absolutely. You'll also need to pass a two-step aptitude test, and there's an age limit of 29 years. But you might be wondering, why only Kenya? What about other East African countries? I mean, they have skilled nurses too, right? Well, turns out there are these WHO regulations in place that right now restrict recruitment from those other nations.
It's a good reminder that even with, the best intentions, international programs still have to navigate these complex regulations and rules.
Oh, for sure. But they're not giving up on expanding to those other countries. Once they include more professions, not just medical, the plan is to broaden their reach. So it's a work in progress, but the vision's there.
Yeah, that long-term vision is important. It shows that this program isn't just about filling a gap right now. It's about building a framework for sustainable talent exchange,
Yeah.
which, let's face it, is crucial for tackling global challenges like this.
Absolutely. And this framework wasn't just, thrown together overnight. Back in 2022, when they were first developing this program, they didn't just randomly pick East Africa. They did their research, looking at things like population size, GDP per capita, demographic trends, the education system. They wanted to make sure they were targeting a region with a strong pool of potential candidates, and East Africa fit the bill.
I like that data-driven approach. It shows they're being strategic about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Not just relying on assumptions or anecdotal evidence.
Yeah, exactly. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about why this program exists, the challenges they're facing, and the early signs of success. But what does it all mean in the bigger picture? What are your main takeaways from all this?
Well, I think what we're seeing here is kind of a microcosm of a much larger global trend, right? A mismatch between where the talent is and where it's actually needed. We see how powerful international collaboration can be in trying to bridge that gap, but we also see how language proficiency, how that can be both a gateway and a barrier to opportunity in our increasingly interconnected world.
That's a perfect way to put it. And those themes are something we'll definitely explore further when we come back. But now, I want to leave you with this thought. What other fields could benefit from this kind of cross-border talent exchange? Think about your own industry, your own area of expertise. Are there untapped pools of talent out there just waiting to be connected with the right opportunities? It's something to ponder as we move forward.
It's a good question to think about. Welcome back. I'm really curious, did you have a chance to think about those other fields that could benefit from this kind of talent exchange?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this model could be used for so many industries that are struggling to find the talent they need. Like, take the tech world, for example.
Yeah.
You always hear about how they need more software developers, data scientists, cybersecurity experts, you name it.
Right, right.
So what if a program like this could connect, brilliant minds from India or Nigeria, with those big tech giants in Silicon Valley or Berlin?
Yeah. I mean, the potential is huge.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
It's not just about filling empty positions. It's about bringing in fresh perspectives, sparking innovation, and creating a more, more interconnected global workforce.
Totally, totally.
Think about it. All the cross-cultural exchange, new ideas, novel approaches, all that could come out of these partnerships.
Right, exactly. It's like companies would get access to a much wider pool of talent. Individuals would get these incredible career opportunities, and we all benefit from more innovation, more knowledge sharing. It's a win-win-win situation.
It really makes you rethink those traditional ideas about work and talent mobility. I mean, in today's globalized world, Why should talent be limited by borders?
It's a really good point. And this whole program, it also shines a light on this big issue that goes way beyond just healthcare or tech, the power of language.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a powerful reminder that being proficient in another language is a valuable skill. It's a gateway to opportunities. It's a bridge that connects cultures.
Yeah, it's a tool for communication, understanding, building connections in a world that's increasingly interconnected. Like you said, being able to communicate effectively across languages. I mean, it's becoming more and more important.
Absolutely. And it's not even just about speaking the language fluently.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the nuances,
Yeah.
the cultural context, even the unspoken rules of communication, all those things that can make or break a successful collaboration.
Yeah, cultural competency.
Ah.
That's just as important as the actual language skill.
Oh, for sure. For sure. So this brings us back to that question we asked earlier. What lessons can we learn from this German-Kenyan initiative and apply to other fields? And I think the main takeaway here is that we need to think outside the box when it comes to finding talent.
Yeah.
Invest in language training, cultural exchange programs, and just, I don't know, break down those barriers that prevent talented individuals from reaching their full potential no matter where they come from.
I completely agree. It's about creating an environment where talent can flow freely, where skills are recognized and valued, and where collaboration is seen as the key to solving global challenges.
Okay, so let's say you're a policymaker or a business leader, right? And you're listening to this. What are some concrete steps you could take to actually put these ideas into action?
That's a great question. Well, I think it starts with a shift in mindset. Acknowledging that talent isn't bound by geography, and that investing in these cross-cultural exchange programs, it can have a huge payoff.
Right.
So for policymakers, this could mean creating more flexible visa programs for skilled workers, investing in language training initiatives, supporting partnerships between educational institutions in different countries.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
And for business leaders, it could be about, rethinking their whole recruitment strategy, maybe partnering with organizations that specialize in cross-cultural training, and really creating a workplace culture that values diversity and inclusivity.
Yeah.
It's about designing a system that welcomes and supports global talent, recognizing that diversity isn't just a buzzword, but it's a source of strength and innovation.
Now, some people might say that these programs could lead to what they call a brain drain from developing countries. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a valid concern, for sure.
Yeah.
It's important to approach these programs ethically,
Right.
responsibly.
Mm-hmm.
The goal should never be to exploit talent, but to create opportunities that benefit everyone.
Okay, so how can we make sure these programs are a win-win for everyone involved?
Transparency, fairness, sustainability,
Okay.
Programs that offer fair wages, good working conditions, that invest in training and development, and that help the sending countries grow economically.
So it's not just about taking talent, but about nurturing it,
Exactly.
cultivating it, creating a positive loop.
Yeah, it's about building bridges, not walls.
Yeah.
That's where the real potential is.
Well said. And it brings up another point that I think often gets overlooked, the human element.
Ah, yes.
We're not just talking about, abstract concepts like talent or workforce, but real people,
Right.
people with their own dreams, aspirations, families, communities.
It's easy to get caught up in the economics and forget that, we're talking about individual lives here.
For sure.
And these programs, they can have a huge impact on people's lives, giving them opportunities to, improve their livelihoods, broaden their horizons, contribute to a better future.
Right. And you can't underestimate the courage it takes for someone to leave their home country, their family, everything they know, to start a new life in a foreign country.
Especially with a language barrier.
Especially with a language barrier.
It's a testament to the human spirit, that desire for growth and the belief in a better future.
It really is. And that's what makes this whole story so compelling. It's not just about statistics or numbers. It's about human potential. It's about global interconnectedness and the transformative power of these cross-cultural exchanges.
It's a powerful reminder that we're all part of this global community,
Yeah.
facing the same challenges and striving for a better future. And by working together, by breaking down barriers, by embracing diversity, I think we can create a world that's more just, equitable, and prosperous for everyone.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot of ground today. Before we wrap up, are there any key takeaways you want to really emphasize for our listeners?
Yeah, for sure. I think first and foremost, I want them to remember that the world is full of talented people,
Yeah.
no matter where they come from. Second, that language proficiency and cultural competency, they're becoming more and more valuable, especially in a globalized world like ours.
Right, right.
And lastly, I think programs like this German-Kenyan initiative, they can serve as a model,
Hmm.
for addressing those talent shortages, for fostering innovation, and building a more interconnected workforce globally.
That's a great summary. And before we sign off, I want to leave our listeners with one last thought-provoking question. We've talked about the benefits of these programs, but what about the risks?
Oh, interesting.
Are there any unintended consequences that we should be aware of? Could this lead to exploitation or maybe even make existing inequalities worse? I think these are really important questions for all of us to think about, especially as we navigate this increasingly complex and interconnected world.
You're absolutely right. It is crucial to be mindful of those potential downsides and to make sure these initiatives are designed and implemented in a way that benefits all parties involved.
Exactly, exactly. And that's a conversation I think we'll definitely revisit in future deep dives. But for now, we've reached the end of our time together. A huge thank you to all of you listening for joining us on this journey into the world of global talent flows. And of course, a massive thank you to our expert for sharing their insights and expertise with us today.
It's always a pleasure, really. I enjoy these conversations.
It's been great. And remember, listeners, this is just the start of the conversation. We encourage you to dig deeper into these topics, check out the resources we mentioned, and most importantly, share your own thoughts and perspectives. What stood out to you? What questions did this raise for you? We'd love to hear your takeaways and keep this discussion going.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, these deep dives aren't just about giving you information. It's about sparking your curiosity, getting you to think critically, and empowering you to engage with the world in a more meaningful way.
Exactly. Knowledge is at its most powerful when it's shared, debated, and put into practice. So let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep. As we wrap up this whole deep dive thing, it kind of hits me that this entire conversation, it really comes down to one basic truth. We live in a world that's more interconnected than ever.
Yeah, I mean, the challenges we face, whether it's those healthcare worker shortages or those talent gaps in tech, they often go way beyond just one country's borders.
Right, exactly.
And the solutions, they increasingly involve embracing that interconnectedness,
Uh-huh.
leveraging all those diverse skills and perspectives from around the globe.
And this program, this German-Kenyan nursing program, it's like a perfect example of that, right?
Yeah, total.
It shows what can happen when different countries, different institutions actually work together to solve these shared challenges.
And it's not just about governments and institutions.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Individuals, regular people, they also have a role to play in making these global exchanges happen.
Right, absolutely. I mean, think about it. If you're someone who's thinking about, working abroad,
Yeah.
this program, it just shows how important those language skills are and cultural competency, too.
Huge.
Investing in those areas can open up so many doors, so many possibilities.
And on the other hand, if you're an employer, this program really highlights the value of, thinking outside the box when it comes to hiring. Looking beyond your usual borders, you can find so much talent, so many fresh ideas.
Absolutely. So whether you're a nurse in Kenya with dreams of working in Germany or a tech company in Silicon Valley looking for, I don't know, talented developers from India or just someone interested in the future of work, this story has something for everyone, I think.
Yeah, it encourages us to, look at the world a little differently, see past those geographical lines, and recognize the potential that comes with embracing diversity and collaboration.
And that's what we really hope you take away from this deep dive.
Yeah.
A sense of what's possible, maybe, a little spark of curiosity, maybe even some inspiration to go out there and figure out how you can help build a more interconnected, more equitable world.
Because at the end of the day, it's those connections.
Yeah.
Those exchanges of knowledge and skills. That's what will really help us create a better future for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And with that, we've reached the end of our journey today. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of global talent flows.
It was a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.